Hey, how's it going, guys? Alright, so in this video we're going to learn how to put data from a database to Google Sheets. Alright, so you can use any database system that supports ODBC Connection Manager, and I'll be using Microsoft SQL Server for this demonstration. Here, let's take a look. So here in my SQL Server database, I have a SQL statement. Basically, if I run this SQL statement, it's going to return this table right here that gives me the job title, employee ID, and employee salary from this SF employee compensation table. And the data sets coming from data SF, this employee compensation data set. And I'll post a link in the description below in case if you want to download the data set and use that as one of the option table. Now to go into my Google Sheets. And here's what the expected result is going to look like when I run the Python script, which is to connect to my Microsoft SQL Server database, run this SQL statement, and based on the result set, it's going to export the result set to my Google Sheets Open Data tab. And before diving into the tutorial, we'll need a couple of things. So I wrote a utility module called Google APIs. In this module, let me pull over the code right here. Alright, so in this Google APIs module, I wrote a function called create service function. And this function allows me to simplify the Google API service instance creation. And there's also other helper classes that are tied to different Google APIs. And you also need to download your client secret file or your client file from your Google Cloud Console. Alright, so here let's dive into the Python script. So in my Python script, I'm going to import, here let me increase the font size. I'm going to import ODBC library first. I'll name this as ODBC. And it's a third-party library. And you can install the library using the command pip install ODBC. Next, I'm going to import the pandas library. And from the Google APIs module, I'm going to import the create service function. And I don't think I need to use any helper function from the Google Sheet helper class. Alright, so here let's connect to Google Sheets API first. So I'm going to provide my client secret file, the API name that I want to connect to, and it's going to be Sheets for Google Sheets, and the API version, and the scopes. And now I'm going to use the spreadsheet scope. And the endpoint is going to be googleapis.com/auth/spreadsheets. Now I want to go back to my Google Sheets. I'm going to grab the document ID. And here I'm going to create a variable called Google Sheets ID. And it's going to be the document ID. Now let's connect to Google Sheets service by inserting the create service function. And I'll provide my client file, API name, API version, and scopes. And I'll name the output as service. And let me go ahead and run this code block. Alright, so it's going to ask me to choose the account that I want to use to authenticate. And I'm going to choose my second account. And on this page, click on Events, and click on this link to proceed. Now click on Continue to grant permission to the program. Now I can close the tab. Alright, so we have officially connected to Google Sheets API, as well as connecting to this Google Sheets document. Now I want to create a class here. Let me go back to the top. I want to create a class to manage my database connection. And I'll call the class database manager. Alright, so by default, when we initialize the database manager object, I want to provide a server name, database name. Inside the constructor, I'm going to create my attributes. I'm going to have server name and database name. And I'll set the connection object to none. Now here I want to create a method called initialize connection. And this function is going to connect to our database system. So inside the initialize connection method, I'm going to insert a try except block. For the exception, I'm going to print the error message. Then I'll set the connection object to none. Inside the try block, I want to reference the ODBC library. I want to connect to my database by referencing the connect method. Now we need to provide the connection string. Alright, so the first item I need to provide is the driver. And it's going to be SQL Server, driver type actually. Followed by server name. And let me format the string to fstring. And because we need to wrap the SQL Server driver type, or not type, driver name, with a curly bracket, so I need to insert 2 sets of curly brackets. And for server name, I can reference the server name attribute. Followed by database. It's going to be equals to self.database name. If I'm connecting to your database with a password and a user ID, they want to provide the UID property for username and PWD for password. And because I can directly connect to my SQL Server database while providing a username and password, so I'll put this on the top as a no. Alright, so if this connection object is created successfully, then we have connected to our database system. So here I'll print a message, connection created successfully. Next, I want to create a method to run the SQL statement. And I'll name the method run query. And this method is going to take a parameter called SQL statement. Now we're going to check if the connection object exists. Actually, let's do if self.connection is none. If the connection object is empty, they want to print message connection is absent. They want to return the method. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and create a cursor object from the connection object. Now we can execute the SQL statement using the cursor object. And there are 2 things we need to insert. The first item is going to be the columns or the column headers. The second item is going to be the records. Alright, so we're going to put the column headers first. And I want to set the output as a tuple. Now, here I'm going to say for column in cursor.description. And this statement is going to return the columns metadata. And I'm only interested in the label name, so it's going to be the first element. If you want to grab the record set, and I can do that by referencing the cursor object .fetch o. Then I want to return both columns and record set. Now, in case if I want to reference the connection, so here I'm going to create a property to reference the connection object. And that's it for the class manager class, or the database manager class. Alright, so let me go ahead and create the class. And this is going to be connect to Google Sheets document. Now we're going to connect to here. So this is going to be connect to database. Alright, so here let me create my server name. And my server name is going to be, here, let me take a look. It's going to be this. And database name is going to be open data. Alright, so let's see. So here let me create an instance of the database manager object. And we need to provide the server name, database name, and just these two items. And I'll name the output as DB connection. Actually, let's do DB manager. And I want to initialize the connection by calling the initialize connection method. Alright, so here let me run these 4 lines. And here I get a message, connection created successfully. Now if I print the connection property, and here's the connection object tied to my SQL Server database. Alright, so I'm going to show you 2 different approaches to put the record set to Google Sheets. Because here, let me run the SQL statement in my database first. If we look at this table here, so these 2 columns are okay. This one is just a regular text string. Employee IDs are just regular integers. But the salaries columns, if we go back to the metadata for salaries column, noticing that here we have the data type set as decimal. I know the text is a little bit small. So when your database system supports decimal data type, and when you put the record set using Python, the value is going to be converted to a decimal object. Here, let me show you. So here, let me create my SQL statement string. And I'll simply copy the SQL statement and assign the SQL statement to the SQL. Actually, let's do SQL query. And assign the SQL statement to this variable. I'm going to, this should be counts and record set. Now if I run the SQL statement using the run query method, and I'll pass the SQL statement. Oh. And if I print the record set object, should me come out of this code block, because in my SQL statement I already cast the salary as flow data type. Let's do this, just a regular column. Alright, so if I print the record set object, here we have regular string or text, integer, and it's going to be converted to text because that's okay. Essentially, when we send the data to Google Sheets is going to automatically convert the value as regular numbers. But if we look at the salaries value, which is this item right here, and it's going to be converted to decimal object. And to convert the decimal object to just a regular decimal value that we can export to Google Sheets. So here let me create the record set object as a data frame. Oh, let me pass the counts to the counts parameter. Alright, so if we print the df object, the pandas library is going to be able to read the decimal object and print the outputs as just regular numbers. But essentially, these are still a decimal object. And we know that because if we print the values from the df object itself, the values convert back to a decimal object. So here what we can do is we can reference the salaries table, not table, column. And we can convert the data type, use the asType function. And this will be float data type. And we'll just replace the values. Alright, so here we have a key error. Let me take a look. Oh, this should be lowercase. Right, so this time if I print the values, it's going to return us just regular numbers. Now I can push the dataset to Google Sheets. And the other method is to convert the data type to float in the SQL statement. So that's going to be method number 2. Now we're going to push the dataset to Google Sheets. Alright, so this is going to be push data to Google Sheets. Alright, so first I'm going to clear everything on my Open Data tab. And it's going to be clear data. I'll reference the service object .spreadsheets .values .clear. And I need to provide the spreadsheet ID. And for the range, and since I'm going to clear everything on the worksheet, I can just provide the worksheet name. And it's going to be open data .asq. And to insert the data set, so from service.spreadsheets .values, and here I have a typo. And I want to use the update method. And we need to provide the spreadsheet ID. And the value input option. And it's going to be user enter. And for the range, it's going to be right. So for the record size, it's going to be cell A2, and you can use different cell reference. But for the demonstration, I'm going to insert the data set in cell A2. And for the body, we need to specify the insertion dimension. And it's going to be by rows. Then we're going to provide the record set, or the records. Alright, so let me take a look. So let me come out the print statements, and I can reference the data frame object df.values I need to convert this to a nested list. Alright, so here at the end we need to type that ASCII. Okay, so this is going to be everything we need to write. Actually, there's one more thing we need to write. We need to insert the column labels. And let me go ahead and copy this code block. And this will be insert column labels. And we're going to insert the label in cell A1. And it's going to be, here, let me take a look, columns. Alright, so this is going to be columns. And I think that should be it. Alright, so let me terminate this session. And now, it's okay. So here, let me change some values. I'll type random text. Now, if I run the Python script, okay, so here I have a typo. Oh, option. I forgot the T. Let me try again. And this one too. And here's the record set that we pulled from a database system. Now, if I change my SQL statement, actually, here, let's go back. Yeah, because this method has one limitation, because you are basically modifying or cleaning out the data set after you retrieve the record set from the database. So you don't always know which column is going to be causing the issue. In this case, it's always better to convert your column data type to flow in your SQL statement. Alright, so let's use a different query. So if I want to run a different SQL statement, and I'll change this to SF film location. Alright, so we have 3,414 rows. I'm going to, let me take a look. Alright, so all the columns are just regular text. So this should be pretty straightforward. So I can simply grab the SQL statement and now replace the SQL query. And I'll come out the DFM object creation. Now inside the update method, I need to replace this with record set. Now if I run the Python script, and here's the data set coming from the SF film location table. And to make sure that I'm getting all the data, if I go to the last row, and here the table ends at 3,415, which is 3,414 record. Alright, so this is going to be everything I'm going to share in this video, and hopefully you guys found this video useful. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.